Hello again. So for this, or in section one, part three, question is, what's a campaign that proved to me what marketing actually is? And outside of my own experiments with, pay-per-click and things of that nature, I'll go to look at when I went to help a particular business that was struggling. Now, in this case, the business was already spending about $20,000 a month in various forms of marketing, from radio, YouTube, Facebook, Yelp, all those kind of things. And they just weren't getting very many results. In a sense, they were doing what they've been told to do by all the people that you find pretty much everywhere on LinkedIn, which is branding, which for a whole year did absolutely nothing besides drain their bank account, which is expected. And all I did was I went through and I made the tweaks to their marketing to go from regular marketing, whatever they consider that to be, to direct response marketing, which is providing an offer and telling them how they can go about to get it. Once we did that, it was about night and day. So for this client, they had confessed to me when I came in that they had about 2 months until they were going to close their doors, have to send everybody home without a job, and just be out of business. And they knew they didn't want to spend less on marketing because they also understood that without a marketing budget, they would not get any customers. But they couldn't, obviously, it wouldn't matter, basically, is whether they spent the money on marketing for 2 months or not, wouldn't actually change the outcome. Maybe it would extend it a month or two, but at that point, it's pointless. Well, I came in, the first thing I did was alter all of their marketing messages to have a direct response tone to them. So not only an offer, but also a direct call to action to get this offer, go here. I also did things like put time limits and pretty much everything that I talk about when it comes to how to structure a good direct response campaign or direct response marketing campaign. And within a month, they were no longer having any problems. They were getting phone calls, clients were booking with them. Within 2 months, they were fully booked, which means they didn't have to worry about shutting down at all. And now all of their people were busy. Within 3 months, they started to get booked out a day or two. By month 4, they were booked out 2 weeks. So to look at the difference between what they did in marketing before and what they did in marketing once I came along, the only real difference is I applied direct marketing strategies. They were already spending a lot of money on marketing as it was. They were doing all of the branding things that they were told to do by everybody you see on LinkedIn who's a brand marketer and says it's the most amazing thing ever. And none of that was actually producing results for them for over a year. To realize a year of doing all of the strategies that they're told to do, as far as when it comes to branding or traditional marketing, had not been able to do anything besides slowly sink this business into bankruptcy. And within a few months of altering just the messaging, we didn't add any channels. And in fact, I think we shaved about $5,000 off their monthly marketing budget. We were able to bring in a huge number of people into the business and through those marketing efforts. And we did everything: direct response, we did radio, we did some TV, we did digital marketing, email follow-up, all of that stuff. And all because that's what he was doing already. All I did was change the message slightly to be more direct response and less, hopefully you'll think of us and call us when you have a problem. And that's really where I saw the impact of how effective marketing, when you actually understand the purpose of marketing and you use it properly, you can flip a switch for a business and they can go from going bankrupt and having to fire everybody to being the number one place everybody calls and booked out, and you're turning customers away within a few months. And it is as simple as that. The biggest problem people run into is they feel like they can't do some of these things or they shouldn't do some of these things. Matter of fact, this client themselves, after about 5 months, believed they no longer needed help because they had gotten so far. But he didn't understand, the marketing as I understood it. They just wanted to continue doing what I'd set up, which is fine. Although I explained to him that if he continued to do what I set up, eventually it wouldn't do well. And I think about a year later, I saw them looking for somebody to come in and do marketing for them again, even though they had hired an agency to sort of take over where I'd left off, which is very common. If you want to see campaigns and strategies that prove what marketing isn't, you can go to about 90% of the agencies that are out there. They have a set rules of ways of doing things, and they tend to just not work. Now, I'm not saying they don't work for anybody. Usually what I say is these businesses, and a marketing agency business survives on the 90-10 rule. And that's sort of like their strategy, whatever it is, isn't very flexible, but it tends to work for about 10% of the businesses they run into. So they bring 10 clients in, one of them does really well, the other 9 move on. You rinse and repeat, and by the end of the year, you have a dozen clients under your belt. Now, however much it costs them to get those 10 every month, I don't know, and I'm not sure what they're doing. Some of it will be referral based and stuff like that, but the reality of it is they start to think that what they're doing is the only way to do it, because after a while they have a large enough clientele where they trick themselves into thinking that what they're doing works. And for the 90% of the clients that come in and get no success, they almost always push the blame onto them. So something to look out for. And like I said, this was an example of a campaign that was not mine, that I could look at and say, all right, this is the way they're doing marketing. It was a lot of branding. It was a lot of look at us. We've been in the business for this many years. We have this much customer satisfaction. They had all their trucks with the wraparound, so you could see them as they drove around the town. They had done all of that. What they hadn't done was any direct response marketing tactics, such as presenting an offer, giving it a deadline, telling people what to do. When they actually implemented actual direct response marketing, they were then given that persuasion, right? They were given the persuasion element, and they already had the connection because they'd been around for a while. They'd been spending a lot of money on marketing. So people knew who they were. They just didn't have a reason to contact them until they changed their offers around. That's it for that question. I hope that gave you some insight into business that is about to go bankrupt can be saved if you're willing to adjust your marketing correctly. The downside to what happened with his business was he was unprepared. So most business owners believe they'll be prepared. And what I mean is I'll ask them, how much business do they want? Do they want a little bit more business? Do they want to blow their business up and have tons of more business? Or do they just kind of want to maintain the status quo? Almost all of them will say, oh, I want as many customers as I can possibly get. And this is foolish because a lot of businesses can't handle the additional customer flow. They say it because they think it's a pipe dream. Oh, it would be awesome to have this many customers. The reality of it is their business isn't set up and they're not ramping up to be able to handle that flow of customers, which was one of the problems he ran into. It's the reason why he was so booked out, he had to turn customers away because his business could no longer handle the inflow of clients. And there's 2 ways to handle this. You ratchet back your ad spend so that way you're not spending as much and not getting as much volume, or your business grows. Now, in his field, it was one of the trades. He was trying to grow, but there just weren't the people around to do it. I think over the next few years, as things change around and you see more people getting into the trades, it'll be easier. But at the time, I mean, he was hiring everybody he could. He was buying other business owners and buying their staff to go with it. And it still wasn't enough to keep up with the large amount of clients he was bringing in. So something to keep in mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.